Hi, I'm Richie Rich, and I'm talking to the fabulous Steve Guttenberg. He's unbelievable. He's got a show called Tales from the Guttenberg Bible. It's fantastic. It's going to be at the Bay Street Theater out the end of the island in Sag Harbor in August, but he'll be at the George Street Playhouse in May for a whole month. So please come here. He's wonderful. He's terrific. And when I see him, I'm going to be so angry he did an imitation of me. This is not how I talk. Anyway, I want to thank you very much. I just had an eye operation. Just want to tell you that. Thank you.
Well, first of all, I am thrilled to be sitting with you, Steve. Welcome back to New York.
Thanks, Rich. Thanks so much.
You are about to return to the stage with your brand new comedy. How excited are you? I
am. I'm really thrilled. At the very beginning, I had a ton of anxiety, but now that we've been rehearsing and it's really coming together, I think it's a very funny, sensitive show. Starting out when I'm 17 years old, and my parents let me go out to Hollywood on my own, which is pretty incredible. Stayed with my parents' family friend. And the story chronicles the adventures I've had as an actor for about my first 10 years.
Okay, so you were brought up on?
Borough Park, Brooklyn,
yeah.
Flushing, Queens, and then Massapequa, Long Island.
Okay, so tell me about that conversation you had with your parents of saying, I want to go to Hollywood.
Well, when I was 13 years old, I took the Regents exam. I was a average 65 student in algebra. My parents said, if you get 100 on the Regents, so I studied my ass off, and I got 100 on the Regents, and they sent me out at 14, and I stayed with this family friend of ours, Michael Bell, who was a brilliant voiceover artist. He did butter parquet. So he had a big mansion out there, and I just loved living out there with him 2 weeks. Came back, and I said, you know, I think I want to be an actor. So I joined this great group called the Teen Repertory Theater in Long Island. Marilyn Rosen was the artistic director, and Mrs. Rosen took a liking to me and saw that I really wanted to be an actor and I had some talent. She nurtured it. Then I started taking classes here in the city, and then when I was 17, 3 days after graduating high school, my parents let me go out to California, to Hollywood, for 2 weeks to see if I could become a movie star. And those 2 weeks became 1 year. And I did a bunch of TV movies, some commercials. And my first year, at the end of it, I was really lonely. I didn't have any friends. And young actors can be very competitive. I didn't make any friends out there. So I quit and went back to Albany State, and I started to study just liberal arts and sciences. And then I got a call from my agent at the time to go do Boys from Brazil with Laurence Olivier, Greg Peck, and James Mason. I didn't want to leave school. I didn't want to be an actor anymore. It was just an extreme life for me. But I went down, had a meeting, I got enamored again, and then I was off to the races.
Okay, you just mentioned three of the biggest stars in the world, and you were like, I don't know if I want to do this.
Yeah, you know, being an actor is a very unstable life.
Yeah.
And it's very unstable for everyone around you. You're not home at 6 o'clock every night, and your moods can change with how you're doing in your career. And it's very public. Everyone knows how you're doing. So I wasn't really sure if I wanted that kind of life. It's been my chosen occupation for the last 47 years. And there are days when I don't want to do it. And then there are days when I think it's just the greatest job ever. Like when I'm doing this with you right now.
Yeah, totally.
But it's, you know, you see on lots of people, lots of actors, musicians, artists. It's a challenge to be an artist.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure that's one of the stories in your new comedy, right?
Yeah.
All right, well, let's talk about it. It's Tales from the Guttenberg Bible.
Yeah.
So how did you come about to write it?
Well, what happened was I wrote a story about my first 10 years in Hollywood. It was a book called the Guttenberg Bible. And my dad, well, about 8 years ago, this terrific producer named Julian Schlossberg, who became my friend, he actually had a radio show 30 years ago. And he mentioned me from the Boys from Brazil. And my mom called in and said that's my son. So Julie and I became friendly. And then when I did a play for him called Relatively Speaking, directed by John Turturro, we became much closer. And I would go out to his house in Katona and have lunch with him. And at one point he read my book and he said, you know, I think this is a play. This was about 8 years ago. So Julian said, why don't you start writing it? And he was so good to me and such a good friend. And I wrote the play, and at one point it was sort of ready, and there was a bunch of places we could have brought it, but he brought it to the George Street Theater, and David Saint, who was the artistic director out in New Brunswick, and they said, we'd like to do this, but my dad has been very sick for the last 5 years. He passed in July, but they were maybe ready to do it, but I wasn't going to leave my dad's bedside. My dad passed in July, and then about November or something like that, Julian said, maybe you want to do it now. Yeah. And I said, okay. So it's very funny, it's sensitive. It's a story of a 17-year-old coming out to California, to Hollywood. It's very much like Candide or Alice in Wonderland or Tom Jones. You know, it's a story of a newbie in a world of all these interesting characters, these exotic characters, and how he deals with it. And it's funny, and it's a meaningful show. My parents are in it, my family, friends, movie stars, actors, directors, producers, Bob Evans or Tom Selleck or really terrific people are in it. And I had a great time. Alan Carr, the Village People, just people from my diner, Paul Reiser, these wonderful people who I've been lucky enough to get to know. And some of them I've been able to call friends.
Yeah. So it's like 90 characters?
90 characters, yeah. 4 actors, and one Steve Guttenberg, and we're doing it.
Okay, talk about working with your director, David Saint.
David Saint is a really talented guy, very low-key. Yeah. No drama. He has a wonderful way in the rehearsal room, keeps everybody calm and cool. He has a steady hand on the tiller, yeah. Knows where he's going, has done only about 1,000 plays. So he's very, very well versed in theater. He's, of course, he's got all his degrees, and he's been the artistic director of George Street for 25 years. So I'm very, very lucky to have him as our director, and it's just going to be terrific.
So let's just talk about what you've enjoyed the most about being back, putting something live together, because we haven't had that in a few years. We were locked down with everything and no one knew what was going to come back. So just being back in a room again with actors and a director and finding your way through this, what you've enjoyed the most.
Well, the first thing, the cast is Arnie Burton and Corinne Montrabon and Dan Dominguez, and they're all so talented, and I'm so lucky that they've joined this ride, and we're lucky enough that they decided to join this ride, and it's been just wonderful to experience the rehearsal. The rehearsal is just so terrific. My first draft of the play was 300 pages, and we whittled it down to 68.
That's like that big, 300, right?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's really, really fun. I'm sorry, your question was.
What have you enjoyed the most about being back in a rehearsal room again and working with actors and just working on your craft?
My brain is busy.
Yeah.
For the last 5 years, I've really been concentrated on my dad, who's been ill. And when I'm sure people understand this, when you're with someone who's very ill every day, it has an effect on you. I also wrote a book about caregiving, and I'm hoping to finish it by September. Being a caregiver is very difficult on people. It's a very weighty responsibility that you want to do, but being with someone you love who's not well really hurts, and it's a very singular preoccupation. It's it's like being a film director, or you never see other film directors. Actors work with other actors. Directors don't work with other directors. Caregivers don't work with other caregivers. It's just you and the patient. So it was me and my sister and my dad and my mom, and it was tough. So now I feel just terrific about being creative and dealing with people who are positive and energetic like yourself. So it's just a great experience.
Was it cathartic for you with everything you've been through to sort of write this down and put this out there and celebrate all these wonderful people in your life?
Yeah, I wrote it sitting next to my dad when he was on dialysis. So I just sat there and I showed him the pages, and he would read them and said, "This is good," or "This stinks." And
well, this is not me. Your dad's like, "This is not me."
I didn't say that. Yeah. it's been terrific to be creative, and it's a risk.
Yeah.
When you go on stage, it's risky. So I'm excited, and it's enlivening and invigorating and creative and thrilling, and something happens in your chemistry when you're creating and you're working. Everything looks better. The food tastes better. The music sounds better. Your relationships at home are better. Everything's better when you're creative.
Yeah. You have this incredible fan base. You know that, right?
Not really.
There's so many people who love all of your films, love your energy, everything that you do.
That's nice. I hope so.
Yeah. You have such an incredible career. I want to mention some of the highlights, and just tell me what comes to mind, a fun story or a great memory. And I'm sure some of these are in the show anyway. You talked about Relatively Speaking.
Relatively Speaking.
That was the last time you were on Broadway.
Yeah, Woody Allen and John Turturro and Marklyn Baker and Carolyn Aaron. And every day Carolyn Aaron, when Woody would come to the theater, she would say, "The author is in the house." And I would go like, "Oh my God!" I would be so nervous. I had a great time, and everybody in the play was wonderful. And just being at the Brooks Atkinson's theater.
Brooks Atkinson.
Yeah, Brooks Atkinson Theater, who was a great,
a
great film critic. That's why I'm not getting his name. He was a theater critic, so I got his name wrong. I loved doing that play, and it was just a thrill every day.
Yeah. All right, working with Woody Allen, like you said, the author is in the building. I mean, you think of the scope of the stuff that Woody has done for us. You're like, oh my God, Woody's in the building.
Yeah,
we have to do the play for him now.
Yeah, and Woody was just wonderful to work for, and he had a kind heart. He was very generous to me, and I really like Woody a lot. I look forward to seeing him. Hopefully, when the play gets up, I'll be able to get to see him.
Yeah. Well, of course, the Brooks Atkinson has now been renamed the Lena Horne Theater. It's beautiful. You got to walk by there. You got to look at your old marquee where you were or whatever else.
Lena Horne. Yeah. Oh, I've always been in love with Lena Horne. Who hasn't? Yeah. Oh, she's just, her talent and her bravery, and she broke down so many barriers for all of us. And I'm thrilled to be. Being Jewish, you know what it's like to have some uphill battles. So, Lena Horne is just one of the greatest characters and one of the greatest people and talented artists ever.
Yeah, you made your Broadway debut in Prelude to a Kiss.
Yeah, I did.
How magical was that? They only happened once, Broadway debuts. What do you remember about that opening night or that whole time?
I remember Craig Lucas coming backstage, and he was such a good guy, and so supportive of me, and I loved doing that show. It was a wonderful show.
Yeah. Do you remember that night? Do you remember that?
I remember opening night distinctly, that the rest of the cast were already set. They'd been doing it for a year. I think I took over from Tim Hutton. Yeah. And I came on. And my first couple of minutes, I was a little jittery, and then I got into it, and I just loved my time on that show. Yeah.
What do you love the most about doing live theater?
What's really great is you can work on your project every night and get it better, and you can never stop working on it. You always want to get better every day, and you want to work with people who are wonderful and talented and have great creativity and kindness and an open heart. The great part of theater is that you can get a rhythm with the audience and have a relationship with the audience. And it's very much fulfilling to know that you're working on your craft and that you get the chance to hone moments and find moments that you didn't know yesterday. It's a wonderful experience, I find, as an actor, to make myself more vulnerable and give myself the opportunity to improve my talent.
Yeah, George Street is a beautiful theater. Yeah, and because you start teching soon, don't you?
Yeah.
But you've been out to the theater. Yeah. Isn't it beautiful?
Beautiful theater, and I'm so glad that they've put that money into New Brunswick.
Yeah.
And theater is important in every town because it takes you away and it gives you, as an audience, an experience that you can't get in film. You know, the great part of film is if you do something magical, it's captured forever. Yeah. The bad part is that you only have a few chances to get it right, and then it's done. Whereas in theater, you know, every night you get to be better.
Yeah. You have 8 shows or whatever. You have another show coming up, or on double show days. I got one. You're doing it tonight.
Yeah, and it's also it's an athletic performance. You know, you have to keep yourself in great shape.
Well, I want to talk about some of your movie highlights. Some incredible films you've done. Let's talk about Cocoon, the Cocoon series. Oh my God, look at the actors you were. Jessica Tandy, Hume Crone. I mean, Wilford Brimley. I mean, look at Donna Amici. Yeah. Gwen Verdon, all these incredible people.
And Maureen Stapleton.
Maureen Stapleton
was my neighbor.
Okay.
We had condos next to each other, and I spent a lot of time with Maureen. And she was one of these people who was so alive all the time. You know, the way she would react to you, and she was every inch of her was alive, and it was like almost sometimes like she had no skin. She was just so sensitive to anything. I would come up and I go, "Hey, Maureen, I'm going to get coffee." "Oh, what kind of coffee?" "Coffee?" I go, "We're going to get. What do you want in it?" "Milk." "No, half and half." "No, maybe I'll get skim milk." "I don't know." I go, "Well, you just tell me what you want." And I go, I'll get what you want." "Okay, what should I want?" "I don't know."
She was the best.
Well, they were all great.
Yeah. Is there a favorite memory of doing the Cocoon films?
Oh yeah, I loved hanging out with Brian Dennehy. You know, he's a very big guy, and Brian was very, very generous to me, and we had some funny experiences together. And he was very well read, and he was very big. And you know, we'd have arm wrestles all the time. And you know, maybe once I got him halfway. You know, he's a big guy.
Yeah. But I mean, you must have learned so much from those incredible, not only stage actors, film actors, stage actors, the combination of having them all in that movie with you.
Yeah, I learned take your time. Take your time. And I learned something else, that everybody counts. Whether it's the music, whether it's the sound man whose hobby is physics, or the wardrobe designer who's a world-class archer. The crew are not grunts.
Yeah.
And I learned that. And I actually put that in my play.
I love that. But take your time.
Take your time. Take your time.
Even on a film, when it's so fast.
Take your time.
But take your time. Okay, Police Academy films. I used to watch those all the time with my nephews, who I visually can watch them just howling through these movies.
Oh, I had a great time with them. We were laughing day and night, day and night. One of the things, though, that really impressed me about Police Academy, as well as the broad humor, was that it had a diversity, a theme of diversity I hadn't seen in a broad comedy. And Bubba Smith and Michael Winslow and Marion Ramsey had characters that addressed the racial inequality and the tension that permeated society. I was very, very proud of that. And Bubba Smith and I, he was the Yoda, and we became very good friends. And his generosity was far larger than his physical stature, and we became just great friends.
Any craziness happen on that set?
Oh, all day and night. You know, I mean, I can't say, you know, Bubba and I mean, there were things that went on, and I just said, "Bubba, we got to go home." And he'd say, "You're like, Goop, we're staying out." I go, "Oh man, Bubba, what am I doing here?" He goes, "You're with me, don't worry about it. Settle down." You know, we went to some crazy places. And then I went to his house all the time in Baldwin Hills. And Michael Winslow, Michael Winslow is a brilliant mimic, and he would make noises, and people would not, you know, your shoes are squeaking, and or make noises to some. And actually, he came over to our house last year, and my wife made spaghetti and meatballs. And while he was eating, he was making noises, and my wife said, "You know, we've got rats." And I would say, "Rats? What do you mean rats?" And Michael would go like, and she would say, "There's rats in the ceiling." And I go, "No, there's no rats in this. I don't know, where's that coming from?" I go, "Michael," I go, "my wife thinks there's rats in the house." He's going, "Sorry about that." So she makes a good spaghetti and meatballs, my wife. And Marion Ramsey was such a good friend of mine. She passed away. We were good buddies, and she was on Broadway.
Oh, a lot of shows.
Dreamgirls, I think.
Oh, yeah, I saw her in a lot of stuff on Broadway.
She had a Tony, right? Tony nomination.
Tony nomination.
Yeah. And and I became good pals with my pal Kim Cattrall, who was such a wonderful lady, a talented actress, wonderful actress, talented actress, and such a good lady. And the director is Jerry Paris, who is a very, very funny guy, and Paul Maslansky, great producer, and Hugh Wilson, great director. So I've had a great time on Police Academy.
Yeah, and then there's Three Men and a Baby.
Oh man, I fell in love with Tom Selleck
Yeah.
and Ted Danson. We were just good buddies, and I still adore those guys. And Leonard Nimoy, our director, who was wonderful to me. And we just had a ball on that show. That show was a really, from day one, we had a great time.
A lot of laughter on that set
Oh
too.
my
I bet,
God,
right?
just laughter night and day. And Ted is such a funny guy, and Tom has an incredible sense of humor.
Yeah.
Makes really great faces. If you ever meet him, tell him to make his monkey face. It's unbelievable, and such a good man. And I love Tom's parents. He lost both his parents, but they were really wonderful people. I loved hanging out with them and his whole family and his wonderful wife, Jilly.
Yeah.
And Tom is one of the nicest men you would ever meet. And I hope that Tom, Ted, and I get to work together again. And maybe one day we'll do a play together or something. They're both just great guys. And Ted is such a generous fellow and such a wonderful, wonderful man. And we lost Leonard, but
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time with Leonard. I really enjoyed his company.
Great stage actor.
Leonard on Equus.
That's right, yeah.
I saw him in Equus, and he's a great acting teacher.
Yeah.
And a great photographer, and artist, poet, terrific guy. And, he made a great deal for, I'm so glad he made a lot of money on the Star Trek movies, because in the first Star Trek, the television show, he was not paid for his merchandising. So when they did the movies, they had to pay him a lot of money, which I was very glad about.
That's great. You had famous babies in that movie, didn't you? Three Men and a Baby?
Yeah, we had two terrific kids who were only babies when we first met them. And Tom had a great idea. He said, let's put money away for their college education. So now they must be 35 years old. But when they were 20, the money accrued so they could go to college on the money that we put aside for the two girls. And it was Tom's idea.
Wow, what a great thing.
Yeah.
Because I know that Elton John and them did that during Billy Elliot, but I've never heard that being done for a
Did he?
for a film. Yeah, for all the Billy Elliots.
Oh.
There was money put aside for all these kids to sort of,
That's really
It was the Billy Elliot Fund. Diner, another incredible. I mean, look at the movies you made.
Barry Levinson, he changed my life.
Yeah.
And to work with him was such a wonderful experience. And then you got Mickey Rourke and Kevin Bacon and Paul Reiser and Timmy Daly, Danny Stern, Ellen Barkin. You go on and on, Just everybody was just so wonderful to work with. And so we were all competitive. And, when you get 7 hungry young actors all vying for camera time with friendly razors, you either have a mess or an all-star team. And Barry asked us to do the scenes as written and then let us play. And a lot of good stuff came from that. The one rule in improvisation is yes, and yeses were flying all over the set.
That's interesting. You're right. You were all about the same age and everything else. Starting out sitting at these tables together.
Competitive.
And it's like, where's the camera?
And then we were friends.
Yeah.
Barry was very smart. He got this one trailer. We had little holes to live in. Then we had a trailer that we'd all hang out in together and get to know each other. And we went out to dinner and became fast friends.
Very smart.
I just saw Tim Daly the other day. Such a wonderful guy. And Danny Stern and Paul Reiser.
Yeah.
We were at Danny's house about a year ago. And then we had a reunion with Kevin and Timmy and Danny. No, not Danny wasn't there. Paul and myself. And we had a reunion about a year ago, or last November.
That's great. Okay, now one of my favorite movies of yours, it may not be one of yours, but many people love this movie, Can't Stop the Music.
Oh my gosh, The Village People, Alan Carr, Nancy Walker directing.
Yes.
And the great Bill Butler, who just passed away at 101, who did Jaws and all these great movies, cinematographer. He was a cinematographer. And I had a great time on that. I was 20 years old. I was roller skating down Broadway.
You were?
I got to, and I got to work with Caitlyn Jenner, who was Bruce Jenner, and Valerie Perrine.
Okay.
And it was just a great time.
All right, well, let's talk about working with Valerie Perrine, one of my all-time favorite people. I know she's not well now. I know, there's GoFundMe's for her and everything else. One of my all-time favorite people. What was it like working with Valerie Perrine?
Valerie was so good to me, so generous to me. Also, she was such a stupendous looking person, carved out of marble. And she was so gorgeous that my eyes popped out of my head. And she was very generous to me, very kind, and I really, and she let me ask her a million questions about Dustin Hoffman and Lenny. So she was very good to me, and I love her very much.
That was such a love song to New York City.
It really
That
was.
movie was really, really great. I mean, anybody could watch Can't Stop the Music and be like, I'm moving to New York City tomorrow.
Yeah, it just, all the people in it were wonderful, and the way they photographed it, and it really was like a love letter to New York City.
Yeah. And June Havoc played your mom.
And June Havoc, oh my God.
Yeah, right?
Baby June.
Yeah, totally. The
Baby
real
June.
Baby June.
All day I would say to her, you're Baby June. I can't believe you're Baby June. You're the real thing. And she lived in this beautiful farm in Connecticut, and so sweet to me, and just a lovely lady.
Did you ever watch the movie again? Did you ever watch Can't Stop the Music?
I haven't seen it in years, but every once in a while I'll run into Felipe or some of the village people, Alex and David Hodo, and great people. Randy, is his nephew I've seen once in a while, and Randy's a great guy.
No, Marilyn Sokol, Barbara Rush.
Marilyn Sokol.
Yeah, who spent a lot of time with you too.
Oh, Marilyn Sokol was so good to me.
Yeah.
Barbara Rush, oh my God, movie star, big time.
It's on Blu-ray. You need to pull it out one night, seriously, and just sit there and have a great time watching this movie.
Macho man, I got to be YMCA.
I always said that if that movie had opened 6 months earlier, it would have been a monster hit.
Yeah.
But Disco had died during the editing of that movie. But it's a really good movie. So anybody watching out there, Can't Stop the Music.
Yeah, we had a brilliant editor too, so it was just great.
So finally, like, what are you looking forward to the most with getting ready to open your show at George Street Playhouse?
Looking forward to enjoying every moment.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to not being nervous and enjoying, and know that everybody in the audience wants me to do well. Everybody wants to see a good show. I'm looking forward to, my wife is coming tomorrow. I haven't seen her in a while. She's coming out, so thank God. I'm looking forward to my life. I'm looking forward to becoming a better person every day. I'm looking forward to working with great people. I'm looking forward to liking myself more every day, and knowing what's important in life. And what's great about this play is I get to be with my family every night on stage. I get to be with my dad, who passed away. And Arnie Burton plays my dad, and I get to look in my dad's eyes every night, and I get to hug my dad through Arnie, and it's a wonderful, selfish, terrific experience. And every night I get to relive this life I've had and see all these nice people that I've known who've helped me, and all the crazy characters, and I get to be innocent again. And I'm looking forward to living every moment, being a better person every day.
That is great. One quick thing that I wanted to talk about. You do a lot for philanthropy. You do a lot for charity. What that means to you personally.
Yeah, you know, it's a funny story. I opened up this place called Guttenhouse for foster children who are emancipated. Emancipated means at 18, sometimes the people that they live with, their foster parents, don't have enough to keep them because the state or the federal government will not support them. So they have to go out on their own. A lot of these kids find themselves on the street. So years ago, I was able to build Guttenhouse, which has 2 apartments, 4 bedrooms, and girls who are emancipated get to live there. So anyway, I wanted to have lunch with them every month. So I'd go every month, and we'd go out to lunch, and I'd talk to the girls. They either had to have a job, be sober, or be in school. That's the 3 rules. So we'd go out to lunch once a month. So one day I showed up to the house, and a girl who I didn't notice, but they're always new people, came to the screen door. She had a baby. I said, "Hi, I'm here to have lunch with all the girls." She goes, "Come in, I want to talk to you." I said, "What's going on?" I said, "Where are the girls?" They said, "Well, they're not here." I go, "Well, we're all going to lunch." She said, "That's what I want to talk to you about. They don't want to go lunch with you anymore." I go, "Why?" She goes, "They think you're boring. You ask the same questions every time. How's school? How's your job? Staying sober? Everything okay?" They don't want to hear those questions anymore. They don't want to have lunch with you anymore. I was furious. This is Guttenhouse, and you don't want to have lunch with me anymore? I called my Aunt Vera, who's 94 years old, and she said, "You know what? You gave them this gift of the house. It's not your house anymore. It's their house.
Yeah.
When you give a gift, it's not yours anymore." So that was my, and I love, and you know, even here in New York City, I'm always giving out money to the homeless. I have a real connection with homeless people, and it really breaks my heart to see people living on the street. So I'm always going out with a wad of cash and giving out cash. It's very hard to live on the street. So all I can say is I want to say, people, if you see people on the street in New York City, don't pass them by like they're just inanimate objects, or don't be angry that they're not working or they're taking. It's really hard to be on the street. It's really hard to live that life. So whatever you can give them, food, a few dollars, a dollar, a few cents, or just say hello to them and treat them like people. It's really tough to be on the street.
Thank you for doing what you do, my friend. We will see you at George Street.
Thanks,
April 25th you start, right?
Thanks, and thanks for all the great energy.
The best.
Appreciate it, buddy.